Hello folks, welcome to this tutorial. This is Data Skills for Everyone and we are still looking at basic text processing, how to handle text data with confidence. In this tutorial, we have a text file that contains several pieces of information and our goal is to extract a small piece of this information, perform some operations on it and then present the results. The text file we are going to work with looks something like this. It consists of some descriptive information at the top and bottom part where we have the description and the company summary. Our data of interest is in the key product section, which contains information about which products were sold and how many units were sold. And you will notice for this problem that all units sold are in either thousand or million. And the question is, how can we go about extracting this information so that we can answer this basic question? What are the top 5 key products based on the units sold? So that is what we're going to spend the rest of this video trying to figure out. And mind you that for the work that we have at hand, we require no additional Python packages to do. At this point, we are ready to begin, and so let's dig in. All right, folks, so here we are in our favorite IDE, Spider, and we are going to begin to attack the problem that we have for today. So basically, we're reading the text file, and then we find a way to print out the top 5 selling key products. In this order, this is what we expect our output to look like. And then again, as a quick reminder that our units are all in thousands or millions, just in case you want to apply this to another similar situation where you have more units than this. And so we are simply going to follow these steps here. We're reading the data, we pass it. Basically, we observe whether the data follows a specific structure, and then if need be, we do some cleaning on it. This is key step because we need to sort our data here, and then we're going to write it to the screen. In our particular scenario today, we are not saving to the file, but you can do that if need be. Our goal is to simply print this to the terminal, and that should be enough for our use case today. So let's begin. And just so that we also know what we are doing, this is the structure of the data, and the portion of it that we are interested starts at line 11 and to 19. So that's what we're going to pay attention to as we're reading our text file. So let's begin and perform the first step by reading in some data. All right, so I made a simple mistake there. I omitted the extension. I didn't do it correctly, but now we have done it correctly and we have some raw data. So let's take a look at what it looks like now that we have it in. So it's like this. And based on what we observe here, the portion of it that we need is going to start from 11 to 19. So that's the portion that we are going to extract. All right, so as you can see, we have extracted the portion of data that we want. And mind you, even though it's 11, Python is 0 based. So I had to start from 10 in the code here to the last line here that we did. And it works out fine as expected. Okay, so our data that we want is done. Our first point is checked, and we can go on to the second point and see whether we can do anything else from this point on. So at this point, we need to observe our data and see whether there is any consistency in the structure based on which we are going to extract the pieces of information that we want. So if you observe the data the way it is, there is the name of the product and then a parenthesis here containing the number of units sold. And it follows the same way for all of it. Only that there are some of the products that are more than one word. Okay, so this would come in handy as we observe the nature. And so if we just went ahead and did a simple split, maybe that won't work out well for us. And so in order to be able to sort our data, usually what format we are going to require, we want our data to look something like this. So what we want our data to look is something like this. When we have our data that is in this structure, then we can use Python to do the sorting for us. But as it is now, we have it in text form like this, and we cannot easily perform any computation on it. And so our goal is to utilize our understanding of the units and these numbers here also to pass it and get a structure like this that we can easily sort using the necessary Python function. So our goal from this point on is to look at this. So basically looking at the data, this is the point where the demarcation of the unit and the product name comes. So we will do a first step and then split the data based on the name of the product and then the unit, and then we will go on a further step to do one or two more steps, then we can get the data we want. Also, we need to get rid of all these carry return characters, the line feed that allows us to go to the next. Okay, so just basic text processing that we need to do. Let's go ahead and do that one first. Okay, so we're going to make reference to our key products again. All right, so this line here should do the job that we wanted to do, but we could also go ahead and do one more step for us. This is the character that separates the name of the product from the unit sold. This character here closes it up, but we don't need it, so we are just going to remove it as one more step just so that we save the number of loops that we are going to write. So I'm just going to add that onto this. I'm going to throw away this parenthesis here, the closing parenthesis, and then I'll be left with this. So let me do that and add it to, just so that you can visualize what is happening. This is going to be the result of the operation that we have just done, and we've cleaned it. Now I'm just going to do one more step on top of this and replace that character with an empty string. All right, so this is what my final line of code is looking like. Let me run it and show you the output. Oops, spelling mistake. All right, so let me show you the output. Good. And so this is what we have been able to get based on all the lines here, and the simple explanation for everything we have done is the result that we are seeing here. So now I have the name of the product and then the unit sold. So there is also this consistency in the structure that we have. Okay, so this is going to be good for our next step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a way to split again on this aspect, because I'm going to require this portion to be alone so that I can use it in some decision making to decide what the unit of this number is going to be. So let me just do one more loop and isolate the number from. I'm going to briefly explain also this line of code here that we have, but now let's check the result of what we have just done. Great. So this is what we've been trying to do, and All right, so something is still missing, but we're gonna go back and fix it very soon. So if you can see what I did, basically we took every line in this intermediate step that we had. We just went over it. This is the first item referenced here, and then the second item referenced here. Okay, we had to split it, and then select once we split it on the space, we're gonna have 3 items. We select the first two. Yeah, so that's what I should have done here. And so this is just going to fix this problem that we have only the first one being selected. And this operation here is a list concatenation in Python. It just allows us to create a new list and append the result of this operation to that one. So that is what we are getting here. And just so that I don't have any errors when I run this line of code, I'm just going to begin from scratch and then run the lines up to this step. Okay, just because I'm replacing and overwriting the data that I get from every step. And so if we check our result from what we have done so far, our key product should look something like this. Great. So this is what we've been trying to do at this point. One more step that we could have done to make this even easier. So one more step. Looks like we are writing a lot of loops, and perhaps there are also much better ways to go about this, but I'm just going to have to go through it like this just for making things clearer. So one more step that we need to do is to make sure that this number 3 here is correctly a number that I can use in my computation. As it stands presently, it's a string which we cannot use in our mathematical operations. And so the final step is to get us this thing done. So how do I go about it? I'm just gonna combine that into step 4. So now we have been able to combine step 2 and 3 in the steps that we have done here. I'm just gonna go straight into step 4, and then at that point I will deal with this problem here. In sorting the data, we are going to make use of the Python function sorted, which allows us to pass an iterable, a list, anything that you can iterate over, and also determine a key by which the items are going to be sorted. So that's what I'm going to do at this point. I'm going to write a very simple if statement that allows me to check what the unit of the product that we are looking at, and then I will create an entry for it based on its unit. So let's go through every data point here. All right, so here are a few lines of code I have written to handle both the conversion here and then the proper number of units that we are going to use in determining which ones have more units sold than the other. So we have this results list here that is going to be used to collect all the results of the computations that we do. So line by line, we go through all the key products. We check the unit, which is the third item in the list here for every product. And if it's in the thousands, we want to make sure that the unit, the quantity sold, is multiplied by its unit so that we get the correct figure. And we do the same thing for a million. So let's see whether this thing works the way we want it to work. Okay, so we are getting okay, I did not include the variable in the computation. What could be happening here? All right, folks, I just discovered my error. So this is where the mistake is. I'm doing the multiplication in the wrong place. I shouldn't be doing that. I need to do my conversion first and then multiply outside of the float conversion. So I was doing unnecessary too many computations but let me just fix that and then we will be good to go. Great. So with this done, I'm sure we shouldn't have any troubles anymore at this point. So let's do the calculation and see what we have now in our result variable. Great, exactly what we were looking for. And so we have the name of each item and then the amount in the proper unit. So this is 300,000 or so. Yep, whatever it is, we are now ready to go ahead doing the sorting. And so with the sorting, just as I mentioned earlier on, we can use the sorted function in Python, specifying a key, and that would be good to go. All we need to pass it now is the result here that we are going to pass to this sorted function. It simply requires an iterable and optionally specify a key that you're going to use for the sorting. So we are going to just do that. For our key, we need to do a little computation for it to work. Basically, you can go ahead and define a function and then use it here. Or when you don't need to do so many computations, you can just use the lambda function, which simplifies what could be done. And so we are doing it this way. And what this means is, we are passing an iterable to the sorted function. So what happens is that every time we fetch one of the items in the list, we are getting something like this, which is also a tuple. And so we are just telling our function to look at the tuple that is being returned and then get us the item at position 1. And that is what this function is going to get for us. And so each time we go through the data, we are looking at the second column, and that's what the function is going to use to do the sorting. So let's run that and see the results. And you can see clearly from here that the raw result and the sorted results are different in the output here. And so that is what we need, but we don't have it in the order that we want. We need the biggest at the top and the smallest in the bottom. And that is what we need to do in our final step by specifying whether we should do a reverse. By default, it is false. And so we specify at this time and say that it should be true. And with that, we have it sorted in descending order. So we have the product with the most number of units sold being the phone, and the one with the least number of units sold being the tablet. But now we have more than 5 products, and our goal is to return just the top 5. So this is very easy. So let's go ahead and do that. And so our top 5 is simply that over here. Great. But it's still not in the format that we wanted for the presentation. So the last thing we're going to fix is to present this in this form. And that we could also write these few lines of code to achieve that result. Great. And so with these lines of code, we should be able to format the items in the top 5 in the format that has been specified. Let's see that. Okay, so we missed one thing. This is not what we wanted. The item here, we need to just fetch the name of the item. So let me fix that and we should be good to go. Great. So one more hitch here in terms of the index, which we can easily fix by adding 1 to that, and that should do. Great. So you can see that we have our result formatted just as we started with, and we expected to format it in this way. Great. So folks, basically that is what we started to do in the beginning of the video, which we have done starting from this problem, fetching the portion of data that we needed to look at, and being able to basically do some parsing on the data by observing its structure, and then finally doing some conversions here, then sorting, and then formatting to the required output. And I can already see several ways in which you can apply this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again later. Bye.